Live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., it is a Sunday evening masterclass. And now our chief instructor, best-selling author and lecturer, the Reverend Dr. Charlette Manning.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Evening Masterclass with Dr. Charlette, where we are exploring some tough issues from a spiritual lens. We are so excited to have our relationship expert back with us by popular demand. Oh my goodness. I got so many emails about Dr. Phil Good on our show a couple of weeks ago that we had done everything we could to get him back last week, but because of the events going on in Kentucky and what have you, the tornado, we decided that we would wait this week, particularly because we are into Christmas week. So we thought this would be a great time for us to have Dr. Phil back with us. So he's going to be joining us shortly, right after our break. So I wanted to welcome you all to Sunday Evening Masterclass. If this is your first time with us, we say welcome. And we ask you if you would not share this with a friend to let other people know that we talk about a plethora of topics on Sunday Night Masterclass, because everything that we do, everything that we are, everything that we be has an energetic flow about it. So everything that we put out into the universe, we get back. I like to say your income makes manifest your outcome. So your income being what's going on in the inside of you. So we have a lot to talk about tonight as we go into Sacred Relationships 2.0. And we're going to have Dr. Phil come on with us relatively early because we ended up not being able to answer all of the questions that we had gotten from him 2 weeks ago. So there are a lot of people that had questions, and we're going to bring him on and allow him to talk more about the work that he does. And his broadcast or his podcast is now being broadcast in 9 different countries, he told us in the pre-production. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. But I spoke at the Unity Church of Washington, D.C. this morning, and the topic that I talked about my talk title was, Would It Be Okay? And Reverend Sylvia Sumter did a class with us. She is the senior minister and spiritual leader at the Unity of Washington, D.C. And she shared this with us and asked us if it would be okay. If everything didn't have to be exactly the way we thought it should, or things shouldn't turn out the way that we thought it might, would it be okay if we just let it be? So, of course, my work is around forgiveness, and I do most of the things that I do. I try to energetically weave within that thread because I believe that the cornerstones of life are around forgiveness and love. And A Course in Miracles teaches us if you're not coming from a place of love, then you're coming from a place of fear. Fear can be reduced to its lowest common denominator when we look at anger, when we look at upset, when we look at our detachment to the energetic flow of life. That imbalance is usually because we are afraid of something. I think it was Will Smith that said, your greatest achievement or your greatest accomplishment comes on the other side of fear. And that means breaking through those fears that you may have about things that are going on in your life, things that are going on in your world. And I think so many of us, since we have been going through this COVID pandemic crisis, has affected everything, and it's a global effect. So it's not that we can escape what's going on in this outside world. Everywhere we go, everything is affected by this COVID pandemic. So we were talking about that, and we were saying how we are bombarded and inundated with so much negative energy right now. And energy has the ability to um, create a residual effect. So I was saying this morning that I think it's really important that we focus on building a spiritual toolkit that will allow us to compensate when so much negative energy is coming our way. Number one, stop watching so doggone much TV. And whether you are a Fox listener or an MSNBC listener, you're getting bombarded with a deluge of information, and most of it, as 45 used to say, is fake news or it's altered news. And again, living in a world of cause and effect, what's true to some may not be true to others, and what's true to others may not be true to some. So I found this thing that I like to use, and I call it, the four concepts of order. And order is when everything is in the flow, everything is going the way that we need. Energetically, you're in alignment and all this other good stuff. Then you have disorder, when you find yourself in a flux of when things are not going well or when things are out of order. Then we have reorder or repair, when we're trying to go back to or find our way or navigate our way back to order, or what we recognize and acknowledge of order. And then we have divine order. So order is, and divine order is, the cornerstone of where we want to find ourselves in the flow of life. So one of the things that I have, age is a wonderful thing, because it teaches you really and truly what's important in life. And you often hear me say, I don't argue with old people. And old people can be older than me or younger than me. But the whole concept is that I don't have to make somebody else wrong in order to make myself right. So one of the principles around staying in that flow or in order is to allow yourself to be able to navigate through that energetic flow that keeps you balanced. So as we were talking about there, as I was sharing with our congregation this morning, I was saying how much we just get caught up in the ebb and flow. If you notice, I say you need to pay attention to how programming works, because you'll see in depressing news cycles, you have some kind of medication prior to and some kind of medication afterwards, or it is either selling drugs or cars. And that's when you watching television and they go to a commercial break, they're either selling drugs or cars. There are all kinds of things that they're keeping you distracted from what's going on. So, one of the things that I said is, if I'm going to, now I'm not saying put your head in the sand and not allow yourself to know these things that are going on in the world, because we do need to know that. And we do need to know that the effect that everything we do has an effect on everything that we are. So in our relationships, as Dr. Phil is going to talk to us more about this evening, in our relationships now, if you don't think exactly the way somebody else thinks, then you're full of bunk. If somebody else can't convince you that you're supposed to think that the way that they think, then they're mad at you or they don't want to have a friendship with you. And I mean to tell you, we're seeing this in the halls of Congress. Can you imagine walking through and working with people on a daily basis and not speaking to them because they are of a different party? That's just crazy to me. So anyway, we want to talk more about order, disorder, reorder, and divine order. And we're going to be talking about that more as we proceed. And I think Dr. Phil will be talking to us a little bit about how to uh, keep yourself in the ebb and flow of life, how not to sweat the small stuff, how to acquiesce in some instances where it's just a lot easier not to participate. And I always say, it takes two people to fight. Two people. You have to engage in an argument with someone in order for an argument to occur. So if you're just not willing to go there because it's just not important what somebody else may think or feel or want to impose on you, then you'll be a whole lot happier. Trust me when I tell you, if in fact they're wrong about something that it will eventually come out. They will find a way. And I've had that happen. And someone will say to me something, about a certain situation. I said, no, I don't. I think that it is so and so, so and so, so and so. And they said, no, 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 you're not right. I said, well, okay, all right. Because eventually the truth will come out, or whatever it is that you're talking about will make itself known to or available to you. So you don't have to engage in argumentative and disdain with other people, because at the end of the day, what the heck does it even really matter? It's not that important. So we're excited about having Dr. Phil with us tonight. I can't tell you, I've watched this young man grow up and to be just an incredible young man who really sees life in a 2.0 perspective, a new millennium perspective. And I have been so honored to be a part of his life as his coach, as his counselor. He now coaches me as much as I coach him. And he's absolutely an incredible young man. So we're going to go and we're going to pay some bills early so we can get Dr. Phil on here and he can share his expertise on sacred relationship, particularly during the holidays. So this is Dr. Charlette on the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. This is Dr. Charlette, and we're coming to you rather live on the New Thought Media Network right here in Washington, D.C. I'm in a disclosed location. I like to say that's Pastor Michael's secret. But no, everybody knows where I am. So, Pastor Michael, are you there? Hi. We
I'm
had
like
Go
I'm
ahead.
like God. I'm everywhere. So I'm always in the background. I'm always saying,
Yes.
what
Well, you
what
were
do I
you were
do
in
next?
Columbus, Ohio this morning, huh?
Yes, I was speaking to the wonderful people at the Columbus CSL, and that was
All
really good.
right.
It was good.
Right.
Good time was had by all. So I told
Ex-
them I told them the truth about Christmas.
Oh, okay. That's it. Well,
So,
we're gonna talk next week, next Sunday. We're gonna be talking about Kwanzaa. So
okay.
we're gonna talk about all the principles around. We'll be able to integrate those two things together, how Christmas and Kwanzaa are work in concert with each other from that new thought perspective.
Well, how
And I know
wonderful.
you're chomping at the bit, and so am I, because we've been talking about bringing Dr. Phil back on with us, and all the questions and all of that we've been having. People have been emailing Michael and emailing me, and I mean, everybody's like, we want to get this Dr. Phil back on. And, at first it was like, Dr. Phil? Dr. Phil's going to be on your show. I said, the real Dr. Phil is going to be on our show. Okay. So, how are you,
Okay,
my darling? How are
I
you?
I am well today,
Good.
and I'm excited to be back on the show.
Awesome. Well, we know that you had a whole bunch of stuff that you had wanted to talk about the last time you were on. And
Hmm.
I know Michael has a question that he got from someone that he wants to ask, but I want to give you the platform and let you just go ahead and share what you want to share, and then we'll kind of feed onto each other if you like.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about because I was watching this video or whatnot, and I saw something about love and being in relationships, but or whatever. But what I got from it was the difference between love and compatibility. So what that means is to a lot of people, people confuse a lot of times being in love with actually being compatible with somebody, because when you're in the first, what you say, 3 months of relationship, you believe that this is the greatest person you ever met and this is the love of my life, yada yada yada. But then what happens is people start to, and I call it just, go through the motions of what they believe what should happen next. So it's kind of like an autopilot of the relationship. So you have going starting from meeting or whatever, then y'all been dating for a while. Oh, we've been dating for a while, so let's take the next step. Let's be together officially. Okay, we've been official for this long. Let's go to the next step, which is living together, then marriage, kids, whatever. But during that time, they haven't actually figured out if they're actually compatible. That's why when a lot of times when people get in these relationships and midway through the second year of their marriage, they figure out, oh, I wasn't really compatible with this person at all. It was just the I don't know, the fairy dust fairy tale or whatever part
Yeah,
of
we
it that we
call it
just
the
let
we,
stream along.
we call it the date and dance.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dating dance, honeymoon period, whatever that period of time is, when y'all are not really arguing, and it puts a lot of it puts, you talked about the arguments, whatever, but it puts the blinders on a lot of people because, well, like you said about the toothpaste one day, to me personally, the stuff like that, stuff like that. Does he squeeze from the middle or the end of the toothpaste, whatever? And oh, I really don't even like how this person chews their food. So it you really have to be cognizant. You really have to be cognizant of doing that, and especially during the time period that we're in is the holidays. So during the holidays, you do have to go to other people's houses or whatever, and you really start to see one how they act in front of people, and you two may have been just cooped up together for so long that you really haven't needed to react with, especially like family, other friends, and stuff like that. But when that time comes, you may think they're the most disgusting person ever. And then y'all just got to deal with it. So the relationship can start to go roller coaster downhill from that point. And I just think that needs to be a lot more communication up front in relationships about what it is that we do and don't like or whatnot. So because that'll bypass some of the hardships that come later on in relationships.
So how have you learned these lessons? Do these come from personal experience that you draw these parallels and you're able to are you your best teacher?
I would say yes. So just reading a lot. I read a lot of books on just relationships and spirituality and just finding yourself first before you get out there. And that's another thing that would work in this instance is people think that finding a relationship is going to change their whole world, but they fail to change their inner world first, and then be the person who they want to date, pretty much, because
Mhm.
that'll attract to the person that you actually want to be with. But people just believe I can just be this person, and then whoever comes, and it'll be that. But personally, yes, I have. I have been through a lot in this short period of time because people always say like you're so young, blah blah blah. Okay, that's fine, but in my 20s or whatever, I did go through some marriage type relationship stuff because I mean, other than like the title, but living with somebody for an extended period of time, you are basically married. So you learn a lot about one, yourself and what you really like, what you really want in a person, and
Mhm.
then you learn about. I used to argue a lot. Okay, even with you, I used to be like, "No, I'm not gonna do that, Charlotte. That's not right, or whatever." But you learn that, like you said, everything don't have to be an argument. Everything does not have to be a win, and that's what people do in a lot in relationships. They want to win. So you want to win with your girlfriend or boyfriend or spouse or whatever that you have, but in the end, one y'all both lose because that just put another tack into your relationship balloon that's soon to explode. And then in the real end, one, you're gonna either be alone because you won't learn how to change, or y'all just gonna be in a long toxic type relationship.
Or you end up taking the same
Right,
lesson into
right,
the next relationship. So,
exactly.
I always say you just change the garment, until you get inside of and will work with the relationship itself. Because everything that you're looking for in someone else is what's most lacking in yourself. So you
Exactly.
see, they say opposites attract, but in fact, opposites really are not attracting. That
Hmm.
you're seeing in that someone else, that thing that you wish was most prominent or most prevalent in you. So you see shy people that tend to gravitate toward gregarious kind of people, what have you. And when you and I first met, I remember, I just call her Vanessa. I don't add. But you were in a live-in relationship, and
Hmm.
I think you and I had really talked a lot about the fact that there was a level of expectation. Boys tend to want women like their moms, and girls tend to want guys like their dad. And when they see that duality,
Hmm.
doesn't exist in their
Hmm.
personal relationships, then they get all flustered and bothered. And why can't you be more like my father? Have you ever heard that? Or why can't you be more like my mother? Have you heard that? And I said, they end up telling you exactly what it is. But I think with you, what was most interesting, because a lot of people may not know this about you, but you are really nice, romantic kind of guy. And you one of those guys that a lot of women would say, "Oh, he's just too nice." because you
Yeah.
respect. So
So this is the part of the like full transparency of the show, because I did used to be nice, and then I went through a period. I don't know if you remember, in like 2015, 16 or so, where I wasn't nice anymore. I wasn't. I was still like respectful to the people who I was supposed to be respectful to, like the elders, and you got stuff like people like that or whatever. That's fine. But a lot of other people, nah, you gonna get the hurt is what it was. It was the hurt that I had experienced in the past relationship, just not healed and mended, and it just came off as, oh, I have to be this because when I was nice, this is what happened. So I had to
Mhm.
I had to flip the switch and say, okay, now I'm just gonna be um a hole
Oh.
basically, basically, um, and I figured out that that wasn't really me. And the prime example of this is, if you remember when LeBron first went to the Miami Heat, he was a villain, and he embraced being a villain. He talked to the crowd, he was doing this, whatever, when they would boo him, whatever, because that energy is what he was embracing. But he also figured out that that was some of the worst times of him playing basketball. Not
Mhm.
stats wise, but just having fun and enjoying the game. His love for
Mhm.
the game had been lost because he was really trying to be something that he really wasn't. So that's what I had to do also, is go back to, now I did have to say some of the stuff I won't take anymore, as far as letting certain stuff slide, and just standing up for myself a lot more.
Mhm. Mhm.
But being just overly mean, it just wasn't really me, and I
It
could
wasn't
feel like a
natural,
darkness.
right?
Yeah, it wasn't natural, and
Yeah.
you can really feel like a darkness around you when you do stuff that's like you said, not natural. So
Mhm.
I did learn that too.
But you have to, one of the things that you have to do when you're coming outside of your character is that you have to, it takes more of an effort to be something that you're not, rather
Right.
than being fully authentic and doing the things and gravitating towards the same type of personality. Now that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that, if there's a lesson that you need to learn, that the universe is not going to bring that person into your life that would best give you the lesson that you need. However, you also have to recognize what you put out, you're going to get back.
Right.
So you may hurt someone in that relationship, in a previous relationship, and end up being hurt in another one. So I'm always saying to Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. And you have to do the things that fulfill you so that you show up in your full authentic self, and
Right.
you're not in pretense, as most people do. And that's what happens. And I think I told you that when you were with Vanessa, I said you guys are in that dating dance,
Yeah.
and you're doing all of the things, you're tiptoeing around, and she's showing you the best side of her and you're showing her the best side of you. But the deal is, how do you feel about her when you see the drool coming down the side of her face when she gets up at first thing in the morning, and her hair smashed up like that, and that kind of thing, the real
Right.
deal, as we
Right.
call it.
Yeah.
So that's where real relationships are cultivated, on that level.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the term where the rubber meets the road, that's
Yeah.
when the real relationship starts too.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
Mm.
That when all the little fluff and stuff is going on, that's cool, because it's good to feel, and it feels like you get just hits of dopamine every day with this person, whatever, and you just like to watch them. You even like to watch them sleep. It's so much of, and it's crazy. I said dopamine, and really the same receptors that's in the brain that you get from the same type of high that you get from doing drugs is the same type of high that's released when you're in a relationship, and that
Yes.
at that beginning part. So
Yeah.
if you feel like you are so addicted to this person, that's really why, because it's
Mhm.
really an addiction. So when that addiction or whatever wears off, then where are y'all? And that's
Mhm.
what ends a lot of relationships, because now since we're talking about the 2.0 relationships and the new millennium relationships, a lot of people just have those relationships and that's it. A lot of people
Mhm.
are being in 3 4 month relationships at a time, and it can
Mhm.
go from person to person. And that's one of the issues, because there's no break, and then there's no healing going on.
Mhm.
They're still dealing with stuff that they was dealing with 10 years ago, and just
Yeah.
bringing it from person to person.
Yeah. Well, you and I have talked a lot about this, and I always say the two most powerful chakras in your body are your mind, your divine mind, and your co-creation. And so much of our attention is given to the lower extremity. And I say that PP gets you in trouble every time. Now we're adults here. We're adults here, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, because you're driven by your body mind function as opposed to your mind body function. The body should always be responding to the mind and not the reproductive order. Now, that reproductive area is the only chakra in the body that can be activated by a thought. That shows you how powerful it is. Now, when you're talking about creation, you're talking about where life begins. Therefore, when we enter into relationships, the first thing the PP wakes up, or that little vajayjay that Oprah calls it, wakes up and it says, "Woo! Okay, attraction, attraction, attraction." But guess
Mhm.
what? As a relationship goes on, you come out of that relationship, guess what? That signature stays behind. So we know how you intimacy, when you are intimate with someone, the actual act of lovemaking or intercourse is an exchange of energy, right?
Right,
So
right.
guess what happens when that energy is no longer happening? You're leaving a signature behind. That's that drug addiction that you're talking
Hmm.
about. So when you see a man or a woman that resembles or reminds you of that girlfriend or that previous girlfriend or boyfriend, what happens? That little area gets activated again. And I often say, okay, what are you seeing in this person? Is it a mind body connection or a body mind connection? Yes.
Yes. So y'all see why, um, when I call Miss Charlette, uh, I'm calling because sometimes when you call people, they gonna try to be on your side. But when I call her, she said, "Well, what is it about this person?" And I'd be like, see, you umming. That's your first thing. You umming. If this
Mhm.
person really meant that much to you, then it would come out fast and it'll be fluid. And then you get to the part where we're talking about the sexual part or whatever. And a lot of people don't know that for whatever reason. A lot of people don't know that, um that signature that you call it, because I didn't had some signatures stayed. Okay, I'm talking about like John Hancock here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just stay with me, and I can't even figure out why. I can't I can't stop thinking about this person, even though we haven't talked or whatever, or we decided we were gonna not do this whole relationship thing or whatever. Or why am I texting this person at 12 o'clock? Like
Mhm.
it's stuff like that. So yes,
Mhm.
that really is true, and I've 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 got it firsthand.
I am telling you, that when you start thinking about that chakra and the power of creation, you're talking about a thought that can activate a body function. You can't think about how your heart beating or your
Mm-mm.
liver or your kidneys, none of that. But the moment you have a nocturnal thought, your body is activated. That's how powerful that energy is. Therefore, when it's not understood, it's very easily misunderstood, and it can create all kinds of drama in your life. And and some people, when you started talking about 4-month relationships, when people understand it's just sex or it's just
Mm-hmm.
sexual, that's not relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or I should say that's not intimacy. It is a
Right.
relationship, but it's not intimacy. I thought that what you said about compatibility is so very key. And I think that this is where I see your level of maturity. Because I mean, when you start talking about finding out if you and I were stuck someplace for a week, we would have plenty to talk about.
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
and it would not be a sexually driven kind of connection, that we would literally be able to communicate and dialogue and laugh and joke and find all kinds of things to do. Whereas if you are with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or something like that, you feel that there is a nocturnal connection that
Right.
requires you to participate in a certain way. And you got to get to the heart of the matter before you can get to that physical part of the matter in your
Right.
relationship.
So, and that's the example with going somewhere and being stuck or whatever. So a lot of people had to do that during the pandemic. A lot of
Yeah.
people had to do that. Even I remember in DC when we had that big storm, the snowmageddon or whatever.
Hmm.
And so we were, because I was in college and we just tasked each other basically to, we got to get somebody to be with us for this period of time. And some people were stuck with people that they really hate. Oh, it's only the second day and I don't even want her to be in my room anymore.
Hmm.
And that's what a lot of people don't tackle in the first part of their relationships is, are we just more than the sexual encounter that we have? And
Hmm.
if I try not to just be that anymore, so I'll just stay away from the person altogether.
Hmm.
But if if I do like somebody, I want to see if we can just be in a room for 5 hours and have conversations, or
Hmm.
can we talk about, let's watch a movie and then talk about what we thought about the movie or whatever, from not just the 2D level. Okay,
Yes.
so that's what a lot of people are waking up to and starting to look for. But then there's a lot that's not. I have an actual example. I was at a club function and we were in like a little section area or whatever. And I told this girl, she had a really nice dress on. I said, you look real, what's the word? Like when you look not homely, but wholesome. I said, you look wholesome in that dress. And she was like, I said, you look wholesome in the dress. And she was like, huh? So I repeated it again because I didn't think that she heard me. And I said, look real wholesome in the dress. And she said, wholesome? What's that? I said, oh, never mind. Never mind. It don't mean nothing. So that was even though she looked very good. So aesthetically, she was okay. And I could have said, okay, I'm going to continue this, even though I just had one of the big things now, like the red flags, even though I just got my first red flag. But instead of following, like my eighth grade basketball coach said, don't think with your little head, think with your big head. So with that, with that, I was thinking a little bit more, and as I've gotten older and wiser and been able to discern what's good for me and what probably wouldn't be very quickly, that I was just like,
Mhm.
oh, nah, that's okay. Have a good time. But it's a lot of people that don't do that. A lot of people just say, well, this person looks this certain way, and we'll just figure out the rest of it down the line. And usually down the line equals to nowhere.
Yeah, because you are you're in attraction mode. You're not in content mode,
Right.
And one of the things that Tony Robbins taught him when I was in his coaching program, he taught us you think from the end result. So you start thinking about, when you engage in someone or you see or are attracted to someone, you ask yourself, could this be the mother of my children? Or could I see myself in a house with a white picket fence, 2 kids and a dog, living the American dream? Although that's really not what that is anymore, but that back in the day. It was that's what you would always say. I used to tell my children, and I came from that school. If you got a girl pregnant or in trouble, you had to marry her. So I used to always tell my children, my sons, I said, listen, when you get ready to do that, you look in her face and you ask yourself, are you willing to spend the rest of your life with this woman? Because those are the side effects of thinking with your little head instead of your big head, as your coach said. So we don't go through that process of elimination. Yes, she may not just be wholesome, she may be all that and a bag of chips. But when the chips are gone, then what are you going to do? Okay. Well, I know that Michael wants to come in. He's got a couple of
Okay.
questions for you, but I wanna take a little break, pay some bills. So I just want to thank everyone for joining in the conversation. Please feel free to put your comments in, or so that Dr. Phil can answer your questions. And I'm so excited to have you with us again tonight. And thank you so much. This is Reverend Dr. Charlette Stokes Manning, and this is the Sunday Evening Masterclass right here on New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
Welcome back. Hey, Pastor Michael.
Yes.
Do you want to share that inquiry that you had for
Yeah.
Dr. Phil this evening?
You guys are so interesting. I mean, but I wanted to share this because, I have a vast staff of people that are constantly sharing with me stuff. Oh, you should put this on your program, or, okay. So I'm gonna put you guys on another screen here. There you go. You guys will still be able to see me. So this, I said, I have to share this with Phil and Charlette because this is this is really good. All right. So What they do on Newsweek is they'll go ahead and they'll have like articles from Reddit, and they'll go ahead and they'll say, well, what do you think about this? So this is it. Said a woman seeking the internet's advice after a less than smooth first visit to meeting her boyfriend's parents. In a now viral post to subreddit, Am I the A-hole? The user said that because of COVID, she was unable to visit her boyfriend's parents in the US. She said the two met in Paris and have been living together for 6 months. She wrote, I was more than happy to go because obviously it was very important to him. Upon arrival at her boyfriend's home, young lady was surprised at his parents' behavior, she wrote. She said, while at first they were welcoming and things were going great, then the stuff hit the fan. It didn't say that, but I just... She said, okay, so the young lady said, she says, during our first meal, they asked me if I knew any prayers, and I said no. His mother told me it's the least you could know. And I was like, sorry, but I don't believe in God.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I'll tell you.
Oh, Lordy.
This gets better. Oh, this gets better. I cannot make this stuff up, okay? She said that she was later surprised to learn that her boyfriend's mother wanted the couple to sleep in separate rooms because it was more appropriate. I have never seen an adult couple sleeping separately. We live together, so like, why would she care? She attempted to make a joke, which only seemed to make the situation worse. And since it seemed that the issue was about sex, I tried to reassure her by making a joke about it. And she looked so offended by the fact that I had implied that we were having sex. And I felt like I had insulted her, even though that we were both adults. Oh, this is, she said, so after trying to persuade his mother otherwise, the two slept in separate rooms. The situation came to a head when his mother expected that she would join them for church. The Reddit contributor declined, saying that church made her feel uncomfortable, given that she does not believe in God.
Oh, Lord.
Can you see how south this is? This is not going very good here. She said she stood her ground despite being pushed and refused to join them. Okay. After this, my boyfriend said that I was not respecting them, she wrote. I told him that I was 100% respecting their beliefs, but they were not the ones respecting mine. Honestly, I was a bit upset by his behavior. Oh, yeah? Because while I agree that myself and his mother might see things differently, I think it's healthy to talk about why I disagree with calmness and respect. I'm almost done here. Commenters were divided over who was to blame for the uncomfortable situation. Did the young lady go over the line by making a joke regarding sex? Were the parents too fundamentalist? Many pointed to the boyfriend, saying that he should have warned his girlfriend before they arrived at the parents' home. So one of the commenter wrote this: did your boyfriend give you any idea of what to expect when you got there? It sounds like he didn't prep you at all for what would happen when you got to his parents' house. I think he is the biggest a-hole here. Almost done. He says, this is a glimpse into your future. If you marry into this family, another commenter wrote, they will be nightmare-in-laws, and your boyfriend sounds like a mommy's boy who does whatever they tell him to do. your comments,
Go ahead.
Dr. Manning and Dr.
Go
Phil Good.
You want me
ahead,
to go
Phil.
first? Okay, so it's a let's start with the girl first. Okay, so when you're going into somebody's home or whatever, what I always do is I go in as the purest angel that I can be. Okay, so because it's you don't know what's what or whatnot, and that could happen. Could have um the ultra religious or whatever parents that are just old school, super old school, whatever. So I'll always let them set the tone as to what I can or cannot do or say. So if I say something or whatever, and their response or clapback or whatever is something that is a little bit risque, or it might be a little raunchy or whatever, then I know that even though I'm not going to do it back, that I can let my guard down a little bit and just be cool with um, being a little more laid back and not having to do the whole like and super impressed your parents or whatever, even though I'm going to do that anyway, but just not being so stringent in our actual interactions.
Right.
That's
Well,
how I do it.
Phil, do you think that, especially in this case, that the boyfriend could have taken her aside and said, listen, I really want you to meet my parents, but I just need to warn you here
Right.
that,
So it
go
and
ahead.
yeah, that they're going to be a certain way, but that is also a red flag within their relationship that they haven't talked about this already.
Yes.
So
Ab-
why haven't you talked about how your parents are and how his parents are or whatever? Because if y'all had already talked about this, you would have known that his parents were big religious people and they didn't like certain stuff or whatever. So that's a big lack of communication that they had together, and that could automatically be a red flag just in their relationship.
Mhm. And I as we were talking before we came on the air, we have generations here. Michael, you're in a generation another 10 years younger than me, and Phil is 3 generations younger than me.
Hold it,
Therefore,
stop. You're 39 now.
well, that's true. That's true. In consciousness, yes.
Okay.
But I come from a very old school, and I told you very early in, when I had my first child, my husband and I were not married, and my grandmother came to stay with me for 6 weeks, and then I left my home and went to her home. And when my husband, well, he was my boyfriend, or we cohabitated at that time, came to get me to bring me back, and we were going to sleep together. We have an
Oh,
infant baby now. My grandmother said, oh, not here. Now you can sleep together at your house, but unmarried people don't sleep together in my house. Now, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. We have an infant baby here, but it's abiding by
Right.
those old school rules. So this couple sounds to me, first of all, they don't sound like white people. I'm gonna say that. And I'm
okay.
gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say that because number one, uh, well, I want to back that up a little bit, because in some instances they do sound like white people, because a black guy taking you home for the holidays with his parents gonna tell you up front, look, my mama is a Sunday go to meeting, and we do
Right.
this, so you got to be prepared for this. And look, it's all you, like Phil says, just fix the man's plate. You don't have to assert your feminist beliefs and all that other stuff in a short term when you're a guest in someone else's home. So
Right.
you
Right.
got to kind of feel things out. You got to recognize. And if in fact it's going to be a conflict for you, stay your behind in a hotel. Then you don't have to deal with that kind of nonsense.
Exactly.
But if you are going to go into someone else's domain, you have to abide by their wishes, as you know, as old school or old fashioned as they may be. Now, Phil said that would be acceptable in his mother's house. He could sleep with his girlfriend in his mother's house. However, I bet you his mother couldn't sleep with her boyfriend in her mother's house.
So
Okay.
I don't know why they allowed me to do this, because I just knew that they was gonna say no, or I knew that they were gonna say something. So all I did was I was like, let's just stay in here for a while, and if they don't say nothing, then we'll just stay. And nobody,
Yeah, you don't get the shoe dropped.
right? Exactly. So it's not a crime if there's no police around, as they say. So I just was like,
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
so I was just like, okay, well, they let us in here. They must not care that much, because my mom is one that will say something. If it's something that she is opposed to or whatever, she will say, well, hey, I know y'all, whatever, because that's what. And a prime example of that was when I was a little bit younger. My sister, who is 2 years younger than me, she would have sleepovers. Okay,
Okay.
and with sleepovers, there's a lot of girls or whatever. So my mom would make sure that there was nothing going on anywhere.
Yes.
So she would go check on us or whatever, go check on me personally to make sure I
Make
was
sure
still in
you
my
wasn't in
room.
that pajama party. Yeah, I
Right,
know.
make sure I was still in my room. So yeah, it's just I guess, like you said, difference of generation. Now I know my grandma wouldn't be with it none,
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah.
yeah, we only have a couple more minutes. The reason I brought that up is I think that three things I see. First of all, is that I don't see a spiritual connection there. Okay, because it hasn't been important or talked about. The
Right.
second thing is that why would he take his live-in lover over
Live-in
to
atheist lover.
mom's house, when again, that, and you know what, I know some of these folk, mom blames her, not
Mm-hmm.
him.
Right.
Okay, that hussy, is going
Yeah.
ahead
Yeah.
and doing that.
Yeah.
I when I read that, I really did feel bad for the woman. I just said, I wish that the boyfriend would have again had an honest conversation. You guys have 30 seconds.
Yeah, and you know what, Phil? This is how it is with you. So you gotta come back. And
With
Michael,
it.
we gotta have him back and get. I really would like to go into more mental relationships and how you develop mental relationships, that sacred component to relationships. So thank you,
Okay.
sweetheart. I love you dearly. Have the best and
Welcome.
happiest Christmas, and Christmas to the family and all of that. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This is Sunday Evening Masterclass with Dr. Charlette right here on New Thought Media Network.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.